Welcome to another episode of the music podcast that now has a name. As always, I'm with the most incredible and knowledgeable co-host in the world, Z. Z, how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good, thank you. It's been a while, eh?
It's been a long time. It feels like it's been a month. I could be wrong, but that's how it
Yeah,
feels like.
yeah, it is because it's been 4 weeks. We've
Yeah,
had four interviews back to back. We've been to three different continents, basically, because we
basically.
started off with
Yeah,
Natasha. She's in Zambia, went to the US with Elijah the Floor. I went to
yeah,
the UK, went to Europe actually
yeah.
with Jazz Harris, and then last week we had P.O with us.
So that's four continents. Is it four? Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
it's four
it's three
countries,
continents.
three continents. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's been fun. It's been fun. It's been fun. From all those interviews, which one was your favorite?
It's the diversity for me. Before I even go into that, it's how we're going
Yeah,
all over. We're just not keeping it locally. I love that for us.
yeah,
But I think for me, I'm, it's difficult to pick one. Hey, it's really difficult because I feel like I I got different things from all of them.
yeah,
I got to understand different things from all of them from a different perspective. I
yeah,
enjoyed Natasha so much because it's sort of like put me in the space that I'm at with all the interviews that followed,
yeah,
It made me understand how to speak to people more and how to be comfortable with people.
yeah,
We went to Elijah and he was as welcoming as well. So it's difficult for me to pinpoint and say this one was my fave because I feel like I got to know a lot about them as
mm,
individuals, about their music and how much they also appreciate what we're doing. Because I feel like they all said that.
yeah,
And for me, that plays a really, really huge role. So I really I love all of them. I can't choose one unless
yeah.
you can.
Nah, I can't. I can't choose anyone. I can't choose which one was my favorite because
Yeah.
the thing is, we are talking to people whose music we love. Like we've listened to their music
Exactly.
before we talk to them. We've listened to the music even before we got in touch with them. All of them, we've listened to their music before we got in touch with them, and we just
Yeah.
fell in love with what they're doing. It's just been a wonderful time. It's been a wonderful time
It's
for
very
for us, and I think we should actually have a goal that by the end of this year, before this year ends, we should have visited at least. Uh, let's try and get all of the continents. I don't know. What do you think?
yeah, no, those are doable numbers. Those are
Yeah.
doable numbers, guys. Me, I believe in us. I believe in myself. I
Yeah.
believe in you. I believe in the podcast. We can do that. I really believe we can.
Yeah, we can. And there's nothing that's stopping us from doing it because everywhere there's always someone who is making incredible music. There's always someone who is making beautiful music, whether they are known
Yeah.
or not known. Because I mean, like doing music is not actually doing beautiful music is not based on how famous you are or how big you are. It's just you
Yeah.
as an artist. It's just you doing what you do, writing the way that you write,
True.
producing the way that you produce, just doing what you love to do.
And when you do that, when you stay true to yourself, there's always gonna be someone who relates. And it's not
Yeah,
just literally one person. There's always a lot of people who relate. And when you look back, maybe 5, 10 years from now, as the artist, you're like, I actually never thought there are people who are giving me time of day, but they actually are. And they're not just listening to your music that one time you release it. They
yeah,
genuinely live off your music for years on years on years. They constantly listening to you as the small artist that you think you are or
mm,
you see yourself as. It shows Uguti, people have different tastes in music. People enjoy different things. People want to hear different things. For me, that's the most important thing. I might enjoy something, but at times I just want to hear something different because
yeah,
we're tired of hearing the same thing over and over again. And then when you find it in like someone new, someone unknown or underground, one thing about me, I enjoy discovering artists because once
yeah,
I do that, I spend a lot of my time listening to them. I could go for weeks without listening to someone else and just listening to them or
yeah.
their kind of group and school of hip hop or school of white or whatever. I just enjoy finding new music and different artists who are unknown.
Yeah, and that's the thing I love about discovering music, because I also love discovering new artists. I love discovering new music. The reason why I love discovering new artists is because a lot of artists, they are properly in their element as far as the
Yes.
artistic
True.
creativity is concerned. They do music the way
Yeah.
that they want to do it. They write it the way that they want to write, and everything about them is purely genuine. They're not really concerned about, okay, a lot of them are not concerned about numbers. They're not concerned about what's going to sell very quickly,
Yeah.
but they're just true to themselves to say, this is who I am, this is my art, and this is how I'm putting my heart and my life into my music. And it's just enjoyable. It's enjoyable to listen to that.
Yeah, and it speaks to how they don't want to be seen as underrated
Yeah,
because they believe that the 10 people who listen to them don't underrate them.
yeah,
They genuinely rate them highly, you know. So they always say, don't say I'm underrated because I only have 1,000 streams a month.
mm,
Those 1,000 streams speak volumes because these are people who genuinely mess with my music.
yeah,
So as much as I might not have the numbers, I'm quite good. And the few people who listen to me appreciate that. And I feel like for me, that's what describes an artist for me, because you believe in your craft and the way you put it out shows what you believe in it. And the next person is definitely going to enjoy it too because of that. It's because of the work you put in and how highly you rate yourself.
yeah. And like for many artists, this has been true that it only takes just one hit for to move from I mean, in today's with the way that music is being sold today, streaming platforms, it only takes just one hit from having 1,000 monthly listeners to 1 million monthly listeners. Just one song.
Correct.
So as
Just
long
one.
as, yeah, I believe that as long as an artist is true to themselves and the way that the work in growing, the way that they do their music, growing themselves and putting that growth into their music, then they're definitely going to get there.
Yeah, like you speaking on that point of that one hit, I feel like so many people right now, that's how they made it. Because a
Yeah,
lot of people have been making music pre Spotify, pre Apple, you know, when it was still
yeah,
on the Audio Mac, on your SoundCloud. They've been making music, and that one hit literally put them where they are right now. Locally, you can check your Keenans, you can check your Nasty C's, you can check your MT. MT has been rapping for a long time before he gave us Roll Up.
yeah,
And that's one song that propelled him, you know. And when we touch on that, it's not necessarily a new artist because he's had features, but with him, same thing is happening right now. I don't know if you've heard of who's this Landrose. He has a
no,
song also featuring Gigi Lemaine. Okay, it's the remix basically. He calls that song the new national anthem.
yeah,
This guy raps in 7 languages.
7.
Seven. He raps in Zulu, in Xhosa, in Sotho, in Tswana, in Venda, in Tsonga, in English and Afrikaans, in 8 languages.
Wow.
He does that in one song, legit. You know, and he's been doing that for a long time, but people didn't know him. People never caught up until I think 2 weeks ago, when TikTok, when he posted a video of himself recording, was making a music video basically.
Yeah.
He was walking, and as he's walking, he's literally rapping to his new song. And now he's switching from language to language. And the thing is, it's not just him switching the languages, even the accent changes. When he speaks Afrikaans or he's rapping in Afrikaans, he sounds like youngster.
Yeah.
You know, I'm
But
like, okay, this guy is amazing. Then he goes to Xhosa, he reminds me of German stuff. I'm like, okay, he has all of that in him. From that, I've been seeing literally his video everywhere. I'm seeing his videos on WhatsApp, on Instagram. People are following. His Instagram went up like 1,000 followers in the past week or so. His
and that's
TikTok is
just
blowing
based on
up.
one song.
This one song and the streams on Spotify as well. They're doing numbers right now. People are enjoying his music, and he doesn't have a lot of music, but then that one, you know, like
Yeah.
okay, this guy's actually good. He's a rapper. So it speaks true to what you were saying that it's time to take that. It takes that one song to propel you and just change your life, basically, because people's lives change after that one song breaks.
Yeah, because you even go back to one of your favorite artists, Big Zulu. Big Zulu started rapping when he was skinny, and now he's this big buff
Hey,
guy and and now he has. I mean,
Yeah.
like, yeah, even though he was pretty much climbing throughout the years, but then Imalining came out, and it just changed his life completely. Now he even
Changes his
drives a
life
Range Rover.
completely.
He moved from ACI or Quantum, whatever he was driving before, and then he now is in a Range Rover. And all of that has been a buildup of all
Yeah.
the years that he's been continuously
The hard
working
work.
on his
Yeah.
craft and growing himself through his music. Then out of the blue, he has Zimalining that just came out. Even over the past weeks, we've seen the controversy around it, but it still doesn't change the fact that one song, it changed his life
Changed his life.
completely.
Yeah. True. Because like you touching on him driving the CIA, like he always says this. He's like, I used to drive this taxi to back to the city after Ngrenga,
Yeah,
so I can go to the sci-fi, so I can go to the Red Bull stage. And people who've been to back to the city know, Wuti, Red Bull stage is where the rappers are, right?
yeah,
But then because they don't have their numbers yet, they're still trying to grant for them. So they playing to a fewer audience.
mm,
So he was going to the Red Bull stage for years and years. And when we were still skinny with Gigi Lamaine and Ginger, there's a picture of them I saw a while back. Like, yeah, all of my face, yeah, it wasn't looking cute, but he was going there. Then I remember, I think it was 2019. Yeah, he closed. There was a closing performance, got back to the city.
yeah,
And it's literally the only reason I went. I remember that day, it's the only reason I went. And when he closed, I feel like that day he gained so many fans. He has this thing of asking them to switch off the beats. He just wants to rap
yeah,
because he wants people to hear him. He wants people to listen to him and hear that he raps.
yeah,
So that's what he did. And I remember a lot of us after the performance were like, Big Zulu's life is going to change from here on. He's going to gain more fans and
mm,
something is going to happen that's going to change his life. I think I was speaking to a friend of mine with Tabi regarding this.
yeah.
And when
Wait,
Melanie popped, Tabi
Tabi the
Brown,
producer.
XTX,
Oh, okay, yeah,
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 I was with him when Zulu was performing. And we were like, what Zulu just did here is crazy. When a person performs and at the end, when he's done, people are just quiet and they're just in awe. That's how people were left the day. Like, who is this guy and what did he just do? You understand?
yeah,
So after that, we're like, this guy's gonna go far. And later in the year, he dropped music, started doing things. Then Imalining he dropped, and his life hasn't been the same. Now, as you say, he's driving Range Rovers. He bought a H1 bus from driving a Quantum to buying a bus. He has a Kushesh now for the fun of it. I'm like, okay.
yeah. Yeah, and
It
that's the
needs to
power.
correct, guys.
And that's the power of really sticking to what you want to do. That's the
True.
power of seeing your dreams through. Because you can only imagine if he just decided that, no, I'm going to leave this thing. And the beat for Imalening and in Dawese Dubai had his hook there, just
Mm,
sitting there in the studio, and Big Zulu just decided, I'm not going to do this anymore. Now, Senkaten, I'm just
that's
going
it.
to continue doing whatever else
Yeah,
I can do. His life wouldn't be what it is today.
it wouldn't. It really wouldn't. It's the resilience, man. The resilience for me, it's everything. So that's why I always say when you believe in your craft yourself, you don't have to change yourself to blend in.
Yeah, yeah,
Because a
and
lot
you
of
don't.
people lose themselves in trying to blend in. Then now they don't even get the numbers they were trying to get because they're no longer authentic. So he
Yeah,
always says, did you ever think you'll see Brentwood rap? Then you look at Brentwood right now. People are rocking it for the fun of it only because of him. People
yeah,
are rocking
because he's
Kavela
doing.
now again because of him. It's
Yeah,
like as much as I'm gonna rap, I'll still wear Brentwood, I'll still wear Kavela, and I'll just be that person. So as I always say, I'm a huge fan of people who are authentic, and I think that's why we interview the people who we interview because they are true to their music and
yeah,
they believe in what they do.
yeah, and their music is something different from what their peers are doing. Each and every one of these
Exactly.
guys that we've interviewed, even though they okay, apart from P.O, but Natasha, Jazz, and Elijah, they are guys who are trying to make it into who are trying to make a huge success of their careers. But each one of
Yeah.
them, I mean, they're in the same generation basically, but each one of
Yeah.
them, they're doing something different. They're doing music
Different.
the way that they want to do it. Like And that's one thing I was telling you. I used to tell this other guy. I can't say his name, but he does. He also raps and he does a lot of trap. I said to him, listen, if you really want to stand out from everyone else, stop
Mm,
doing trap, stop doing drill, stop doing what everyone else is doing.
yes.
Like find a
Yeah.
sound that is you, find a sound that
Yes.
is going to resonate with who you are, and also
Mm,
lyrically, like stop doing these party lyrics and trying to turn everyone up. Like just write something that is going to show who you are as an artist,
who you are.
because everyone
Yeah.
else is going to catch up a bit later on. And the thing is, right now you're not big enough to be doing what everyone else is doing, because basically,
Exactly.
if you do trap today and you try to do the whole, I mean, if you do trap as a whole, what you're doing is that you're basically becoming a drop in the ocean,
Yeah.
and you're just
Literally.
blending in with everyone. You have
Yeah.
guys who are huge, who are getting radio play just by being who they are, and they're
Who they
also
are.
doing trap. And you're not going to get into that space very easily unless you do something
Definitely.
different. So every artist, they need to do something different. And this brings me to my favorite artist myself, Kendrick Lamar. Just recently,
Yeah.
I think it was yesterday, if not the day before, I just felt that I needed to listen to his EP, his first EP, the Kendrick Lamar
Mm,
EP. And
mm,
from that EP, I mean, I listened to it, I don't know how many times. And yesterday it really hit me that the
yeah.
sound that is in there, even though, because you can hear, I think he released it around 2009 or something,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the way that the entire beats are structured, the way that the sound is done, you can hear that is from that era of the late
Mm,
2000s. But as an artist himself, as a writer, he is a writer, like a proper writer.
yes.
You
Yeah.
can still hear the Kendrick Lamar today that he was
Definitely.
back in 2009. But the difference
Mm,
is that he has more experience now. He has seen more
yeah.
things. He has grown so much from the way that he does his music. You look at the Kendrick Lamar EP, which was followed by Overly Dedicated. Both these EPs, they are so brilliant in that he remained true to who he is as an artist, as a writer, as a rapper, and also
Mm,
how he chooses his beats, how he chooses his producers that he works with, which is absolutely brilliant. And that's one thing, another
amazing.
thing that a lot of artists need to look at, that you don't just use a beat just because
True.
it's hot. You need to use a beat because of how it's going. If you
Yeah.
if you're planning on doing an EP or an album, whatever beat that you choose, it has to blend in with the
Yes.
theme of what you're doing, of what you're going with.
Definitely. And at times, I feel like people don't pay attention to how much a beat can mess you up as a rapper or a
Yeah,
musician entirely. You can literally sound off beat or off tune the entire song simply because you said, I want to use this beat.
beat. Yeah,
You were not patient enough because you could have saved the beat and used it in the next project that will work perfectly well,
yeah,
unless your album is into sections. You know how people have 20 track albums now, and the
yeah,
first 10 is a certain feel to it, and the last 10. If that's the case, cool, it'll work. But now
yeah,
if you have 14 tracks and it's all the same feel, then you want to come and give us an M of doom beat or type of feel when you're more of a, who can I even say it? Like those Keenan basically right now, because Keenan
yeah,
right now is more on the up to the beat soft life. Then when
yeah,
it comes and be hardcore on just that one song, but still be off beat, it's not gonna work. So people
yeah.
don't, most artists don't put enough thought into the beat selection, into the producing of the tracks and putting together the entire album. It's not a lot of them get it right like Kendrick does.
Yeah, and also in looking at Rick Ross, because now as you're describing everything that you've just said, you also look at Rick Ross. Rick Ross has this
Yeah,
image that is created around himself, and his lyrics as well. This guy, Rick Ross, is all about luxury. Is all
yeah,
about everything
definitely.
nice, everything good.
Yes.
And I've personally, I've said that he's the king of luxury rap, because
Yeah.
when you talk about luxury
Hey,
rap,
I hear you, but I'm not sure. I love Ross, but hey, guys, there's Pusha, hey?
yeah,
One thing about
nah,
Pusha T, guys.
no,
Hey,
no, no,
let's
no.
not underrate the guy.
Look, Pusha,
He's so
I hear it.
subtle.
Pusha is more of the drug dealer type thing,
Yeah.
whereas Rick Ross is now talking about the proceeds of that life that Pusha is talking
Mm.
about. He's
Okay, I
talking. I
get
mean,
you.
you hear about his. I mean, you look at from his first album, the initial his first single that he released from that album, Maybach Music. It's all
Mm.
about luxury. You listen to the lyrics,
Luxury.
you hear,
Yeah.
listen to the beat. Everything about it is just pure luxury. Even the name of the song,
Yeah.
Maybach Music. And you
Maybach
think of
music.
a Maybach, you think of the kind of music that you would play in a Maybach.
In a
Yeah,
Maybach.
yeah. All going through all of his music that is done, all of his albums. You look at his beat selection, all of them, they're luxurious beats, like they're
Yeah.
pure luxury. Like it's
Yeah.
just you almost think that it was created in some sort of like a Maybach type um, factory or something, just for
Yeah.
music, where everything is handcrafted, is properly, but like the attention to
For
detail, the
him.
way that it goes into
Yeah.
into the beat, the way that it flows into the beat, in and out of the beat, is just pure luxury. That's why I say that he's the king of luxury rap, because everything about it, from the beat selection to the lyrics to the flow, it's just
Yeah.
pure luxury.
No, that's true. He has, at times, you know when you listen to Ross, listen to Rick
Yeah.
Ross in a dark room, in a bedroom, listen to Ross in a bedroom, lights off, just stay into the ceiling and zone out. You would swear that you're living a best life. This time you don't
Really?
even have money for your Wi-Fi at the end of the night. But you just
Really?
feel like, you know what? I got this. I am okay. One thing about Ross will put you into that space.
Really?
People will get it right, you know. Even his album titles, like
Yeah,
who would just say richer than I've ever been? Like, what?
like
Why?
Teflon Don.
It's the confidence for
and
me.
that's the thing, because when you think about the way that he does it, his lyrics, like he can create an image for you with his raps.
Definitely.
Like
Yeah.
you just sit there, you listen to him, you almost see yourself listening to you actually see yourself being in that space that he's rapping about. I think I
Yeah.
forgot which Maybach music it is, but sometimes when I listen to it, I think it's Maybach Music 3, if I'm not mistaken. It's the one with T.I., I believe.
Mm-hmm.
When you listen to that, you almost see yourself getting out of the house in this huge mansion, getting into your
Yeah.
Maybach, just putting the beat on, because the way that it
Yeah.
starts, it's just that intro from you getting out of the house, getting into the Maybach, and just driving
Correct.
off. And you can almost see the wheels of the Maybach spinning, everything
Mm.
just, and that's just the beat alone. We
Do you
haven't got
understand?
into, yeah, we haven't got into to the lyrical content of the whole thing, but just the beat alone, it just puts you into that zone. And that's how a lot of artists need to approach their music, where they have to understand who they are. They have to understand they have to
That's
understand
true.
the message that they want to send out into the
Trying to
world.
send out.
And
Yeah.
yeah, like everyone, like there should be like sort of like an emotional connection with the music
Definitely.
that you make and the listener, and yeah, and the listener.
True. Because at times, maybe it's just me, but I can tell when a person doesn't believe what they say themselves.
Yeah,
Like you can hear it. There's no point in you trying to rap about being a dealer when you literally, because you are suffering, right? When you didn't
yeah,
even suffer. First of all, you grew up in Bryanston. You were
yeah.
chauffeured to school, you know? So why are you saying when my mama didn't have a job? Now you're out here lying, you know, just because you're trying to fit in with everyone else who came
Yeah,
from nothing. It's
and
okay
that,
to it's okay for you to have it together. It's okay for you to have your father book a studio for you at grade 11, you know?
yeah,
You don't have to struggle to get where everybody else is at. And if you stay true to what you are or who you are, there's a lot of other people who can relate. There's a lot of other kids who went to Saint Anthonyans, who went to like all those Harvard schools and whatnot. They don't have to feel like, okay, now I'm here alone because everybody else grew up in the slums of Chicago, or everybody else grew up in Gomorrah, you know. You
Yeah.
can actually grow up in Bryanston, or you can grow up in Beverly Hills, and you know, like I'm a rapper and I'm gonna stick true to that. If I ride in Phantoms every day, it's so be it. I'm gonna stick true to that. That's who I am.
Yeah, and that's the thing. What we connect with is not necessarily your poverty. We don't necessarily care how hard your
Exactly.
life was growing up. What we
Yeah,
connect with is how genuine you are.
you
We
are.
care about we connect with you because you are genuine. You are true to your music. You
Yes,
are true to what you are saying, and you are living your truth.
definitely.
That is what we connect with. Because the
Connect
thing
to.
is, and that's the thing that's upset Lady Do's father. I don't know if you've seen that
Yes.
video
Yeah, I was
because
thinking
what
about it right now. I'm like, there's no need.
because
It's
when
this
when you
poverty mentality that we all need to come from to make something of ourselves. No.
yeah, I mean just the fact that she grew up in in Vosloorus. Growing
Yeah.
up in Vosloorus alone is such a huge. I mean, it just puts her in a space with a certain group of people. Although there's
Definitely.
people who grew up around her, who know her life,
Yeah.
who know who she is, who know how
Exactly.
she was raised, and that for them, it's because they also testified on Twitter to say that we know Lady Do, we know
Yeah.
how she. I mean, she was basically the cheese girl of
The
all the
cheese
cheese
girl
girls.
at the
Yeah,
house, you know. Yeah.
yeah.
And her
She was
father tried. That's what everybody was saying. Her dad tried.
yeah, and we never really because I didn't know Lady Do's background or anything, and I didn't care about that. All I care about is that she is vocally gifted.
Oh,
She is so
yeah.
incredible vocally. I don't know if she writes her music herself, but either
Or
way,
not. Yeah.
her delivery of
It's
those lyrics,
amazing.
it's amazing. Like we really don't care. I mean, South Africa on its own, we know that we know the poverty that is in this country. We know how it is in this country. Today, we just don't care that you grew up
Yes.
poor or you grew up how you grew up. All we care about is that you are living the truth, and we are hearing that
Yes.
in your music.
Honestly, guys, she could have just kept quiet because I really don't think there's anyone who asked her. Like,
Yeah,
because it was so random. Like, there was really no need, you know, unless if there was like a talk or interview where she was asked, "How did you grow up?" and all of that.
yeah,
And even with that, her knowing obviously people knew her. She wasn't supposed to say that,
yeah. She didn't have
you
to
know.
lie
So I
about it.
don't. That's what I'm saying. I feel like it's this thing of trying to get the support of the masses. Oh, she grew
Yeah,
up from nothing and she made it literally from rags to riches because now she's buying houses, now she's buying cars, but forgetting what she had accessibility.
yeah,
Her dad being a DJ literally put her in certain spaces. Let's not deny the fact, you know.
yeah, yeah.
That we always speak to when we say, I forgot the name of that book. I think The Outliers.
Yeah.
You know,
Um,
they had access to certain things, whether it was the university, whether it was access to cars or access to certain friendships or sports. You
yeah,
being in a certain place at a certain time, that makes you an outlier because you were chosen few. So her dad being a DJ, it already put her like 10 steps ahead of others. So
yeah,
she could have owned up to that fact to be like, yeah, no, guys, I made it because I'm good, but also my dad played a role. I
yeah,
didn't necessarily suffer to get where I'm at.
yeah. And like because we appreciate the fact that you always show up when it's time to work.
I
Every time
understand.
that you have to put your vocals down, you always show up, you always show out, you're always brilliant,
Mm,
and we're able to
yeah.
connect with you with your music. How your background was, whether you grew up poor or not, we really don't care. It really doesn't matter anymore. And like and over the
Especially
years,
if it's not true.
yeah, especially if it's not true. And over the years, I think people who were not so fortunate enough to go to these Model C schools or private schools,
Mm.
they found that we are not so different. All of us are not so different. As long as you grew up in the township, you grew up in the same street, especially with us who grew up in townships. We live in the same street where you have people who go to Model C schools and people who go to schools in the township. There was a time when we were called cheese boys and cheese girls just because we
Do you
went to school
understand?
in town. Yeah, but over the
Simply because
years,
Buhamba and transport. Simply
yeah,
because Buhamba and transport. And you're like, okay, this one is good, you know?
you know, and the thing is, I think there was later a realization that the financial situation is not so different. It's not so different just because you go to you SMC transport, you go to school where you learn in English every day. But our experiences are still the same from where we grew up. We grew up playing together. We grew up seeing the same things around where we grew up, and the gap is just pretty much closed. Where now it doesn't matter anymore whether you go to a school in town or you go to school in the township. Yeah, because everything, the gap is pretty much closed now, and nobody really cares because now you can make it regardless of where you go.
Either or, exactly.
Yeah, now you can make it, and you can also fail regardless of where you go. Yeah, because I mean we've seen a lot of we've went to school with guys. I mean, now their lives are not as great as they were supposed to be, or they were at the time when we were in school. But so that just shows of how you can make it regardless of where you are. So whether or not you grow up poor, yeah, as an artist, whether or not you grow up poor, that doesn't matter. Just do your music.
The times
just
have
be
changed,
true. Just be true.
honestly.
Yeah.
Because if you look back, I feel like if you were speaking of the old days of Mshoza and Abozola, you know, and they spoke about what we're speaking about right now, it would make sense. Access was a big thing, you know.
Yeah.
There was no social media. There was no getting to Bryanston. It wasn't easy for them to get to the studio, you know. So for them to say, we broke out from the hood, literally, it means those people tried, you know.
They tried.
They weren't on TikTok where they would just switch on the ring light and rap, and now they make it.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work that had to come through. So for them to release an album, it was a big deal. That's why certain people from certain townships were so greatly appreciated or celebrated, because everyone from there knew what getting out of here is not easy. Even if you have a 9 to 5, it's not easy. You can't get out of here.
Yeah, and also, you know, with the artists of that time, they when you think about the drive between Joburg and Elo, it's a bit of a long drive, and also when you take taxis, it can be a bit of a hassle. Some of these guys had to move to areas like Boyoville and Hillbrow, and it was not just because now they have money, but it was because it was now easier to get to studio and to do everything. Yeah, it was just a matter of accessibility. But a lot of the guys, you know, and I think it's the same thing with Mendoza. I think it was living still Soweto, if I'm not mistaken, or still had a house back there. And you know, and that's because now it was easier for him to travel between all these places. And and he also loved being a Lokshi because that's who he was. True. That's how he grew up. That's all that mattered to him. Would say, I'm from here. I do not want to move, even though I can afford to have a house somewhere in Santen or wherever. I still choose to stay a Lokshin because that's where I want to be.
Exactly. And speaking of also this thing of saying you need to come from certain places to make sure that you make it and stay there, it's not true, because there are people who come from affluent neighborhoods and they make it and they still suffer and they go back 10 steps backwards. Then the people who come from the hood and make it and still stay there. Because right now, I was looking at the story of Zola. Zola is no longer getting money, right? He's trying to do certain things, but not as much as he was getting money. But one thing he was smart about, and I always say this, guys, I'm very big on property. I always say, whatever you go through, if you can afford to buy a house, buy it. And I'm not saying go buy it now in Bryanston where the levies are insane. You can buy it as a property claim, it's fine. But if you can afford to buy a house, do it. Uzola right now, as much as Ezola is still home, he has a house in the Paris,
Yeah.
fully paid for. He's not owing that bond to anyone, you know?
Yeah.
Pays for also electricity like every law-abiding citizen is, but he bought a house and he's living, he's okay, you know?
Yeah.
As I'm saying, that he didn't have the education that came from North Riding, for example, or wherever else in the North. He had the education, you know? And
Yeah.
the
His
people he
children
went
had
to school with, and they didn't make it.
his children had
And
had
he
a
was the one
better
who was still
education than
speaking
he did.
about the authenticity and people staying true to who they are. And I mentioned album Garos, right?
Yeah.
The recent one, I think from 2021, yeah, December. I'm richer than I've ever been.
Yeah.
He going back to that, they were speaking to him, go an interview with Hot New Hip Hop, and he was talking about how he's going to give us 2 new albums this summer, right?
Yeah.
Well, their summer, that is. Cool. And my thing is that and the last album he gave us actually last year, December, it was his last album from Epic Records.
Is it?
And yeah, and I don't know how that split came about, right? And I don't know the context of it and how it ended. So I don't know if it was good or bad now. But 90% of the time when artists drop the last album from a label, it's normally not a great split. And you can tell from the album itself, from the type of music they give us, from the content and how great the album is.
Yeah, like Lil Wayne's Carter 5.
But unlike 90% of those other artists, Ross is Richer Than I've Ever Been actually picked top 10 in the US in the US charts, you know?
Yeah.
It had great features. A lot of people were in that album. So that's what I'm saying. Unless I don't know the context, unless you do know it, do you know how the split from Epic came apart? Because this album was still as good as all the Ross albums. It wasn't a thing you would say, let me just give you guys the last 6 album and be out because I'm annoyed with this company or with this management, you know? It was still the Ross that we knew.
Yeah, I don't know how that came about. I didn't even know that it was under Epic Records this entire time, because I think my understanding was that he was okay. At least that was my belief, that he was with Def Jam as well as his own WMG. I thought that it was just those 2 record labels, so I wasn't aware of Epic Records. But anyway. The thing is, like you said, it's a really, really good album, especially the lead single from it, Outlaws, with Jasmine Sullivan and 21 Savage. Like it's a really brilliant album. And I think a lot of people would probably disagree with us, simply because of the album was not really talked about a lot. And I think the reason for that is because today we consume music very quickly. Like we do not appreciate music as we used to because of how easily we can access it. Because I think one of the reasons why long ago, when we still had CDs and going back to vinyls and tapes and whatever, is because the only way, at least the best way to get an entire album was to actually buy one. As opposed to, I mean, there are people, especially with the CDs, the people who pirated the music and whatnot, and whatever. But the thing today with streaming, the way that it happens is that anyone can get access to the music at any given time. No one has to budget for it to say I have to wait a few weeks or until the end of the month to buy the CD, and then I can play it and I can also give my take about it. Today, everyone just gets the music at the same time. They listen, they give their take, and then they just move on to something else, which is similar to what happened with J. Cole's, I think it's the off season. Yeah, was it the off season, his latest album?
The recent one.
Yeah.
The off season.
Yeah.
The one that wasn't talked about much, but actually has some fire tunes.
Yeah. It's the one with the burning hoop and everything. Yeah. People haven't really talked about these albums much, but also recently, what I've noticed is that last week, Kendrick, was it last week or the week before? That I think it was the week before. Yeah,
the other Friday.
Yeah, it was the week before, the other Friday, that Kendrick Lamar released his latest album, which also happens to be his last album with TDE. And since then, people have been talking about the album. Like there's just this, for some reason, um, people just keep talking about the album. And when they talk about the album, they also bring in guys like J. Cole. And it makes sense for them to bring in J. Cole because of how close they are or how closely matched they are with their music.
The music.
Yeah. And also because they've been talking about, there's just been a lot of takes. People just give a lot of takes when it comes to Kendrick Lamar and his album. Every time it's just he's just always a talking point. His albums are always a talking point, which is quite interesting. Quite honest. And you know, I really, really love Kendrick. Like really, really, really love him. And you know, for me,
we're nice. So you were nice.
I just can't wait. I just hope that he comes back to perform in South Africa very soon because this time I definitely will be there to see him. But anyway, the thing about his album is that I've noticed something as well that he always has, and I think I've said it before with our very first episode that we did, that he always has some sort of theme going on with his albums. Like there's something, there's a certain message that he always sends through his albums. Like this one, he kept like at the end of the songs, he had this thing with you hear tap dancing going on. And then he says, what do you say? Stop tap dancing around the
conversation.
Around the conversation. Yeah. So with the bigger message, or at least what I've picked up, the bigger message from this album is that he just wants people to be straight about what they're talking about. Yeah, just speak, just say what you want to say. And don't. Yeah, just own your truth. And the funny thing is, I think the tap dancing at the end of the song, it happens with the what's the name of that song from the album with Taylor.
The song I wanted to ask you about, I wanted to pick your brains about it because some guy I know is not big on profanity. And one thing about that song.
Yeah. And because that's the thing.
I need to ask this friend, how does he listen to the song? Do you not cringe? Do you not cringe when it's titled "We Cry Together"? I love that song. Besides the cursing, man, I feel like they speak true to what our generation is going through.
Yeah, like the thing is, with that song, it also just happens to be my favorite, my favorite song from the album because of the concept. Yes, because of the concept.
Okay, the profanity aside.
Profanity, dude. Like, like I'm even thinking, you know, I was thinking that I even looked up whether or not he had like a clean version of the album. And I haven't really found it because I think I only looked like last week or whatever. I'm not sure because with the streaming platform that I use, there isn't a clean version as yet. I don't know of all the other platforms. But I was thinking that for on that song, the name of the song is "We Cry Together" by the way. When he gets to that sort of, because I can't say it's a hook, but it's more of a bridge between the verses when they have all this profanity. Like I even counted, like if they were to have like a clean version of the song, it'll go for like probably somewhere between 5 and 10 seconds of silence, where it will be just the beat in the background and nothing else. It'll be just like 5 to 10 seconds of silence, and it will be a nightmare if you were to.
That's the thing.
To clean that song.
Like I'm not against clean songs, man. Like I really support them, but I feel like this particular song, guys, I don't think it's gonna work. Also, it might even lose what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
Because the way they're cursing, there's a reason why they're cursing like that.
Yeah.
Because it's deep, man. Those words come from deep within their guts. So like if they cut out that and they make it clean, it might not give us what we wanted to give or what it's already giving.
like the only way to listen to that song is with the profanity, pretty much.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the only way to listen to that song. And by the way, what I was saying is that I think it's the first song on the album where you hear the tap dancing at the
Yes.
end of the song, and it's
Blew my mind.
yeah, and
Finished, mate. I thought
yeah,
the song was finished. Out of the blue, I'm hearing this. I'm like, okay, sharp. Then they keep quiet. Then he says that. I'm like, what did I just hear? You know, when you just want to throw your headphones. I was
yeah,
legit throwing my headphones. No ways. No
yeah.
way. This is amazing.
Yeah, like the entire concept of the song and the
Yeah.
album itself is really true to who Kendrick Lamar is.
Exactly.
You the I mean the I think partly the reason why you hear the tap dancing for the first time through in that song is because throughout the song these two Kendrick and Taylor, they're not saying what they wanted to say
What they want to
until
say.
the very end, until the very end of the song where they say whatever it is that they're saying there.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like it's really a great it's a great song, and it reminds me of because from his first album as well, he has a similar concept on Section 80. There's a song titled No Makeup on there and like there's also that back and forth somewhere within the song. But the only difference between this song, between the two songs, is that on No Makeup, they're not fighting, but it's almost Kendrick is doing that thing where he is rapping from the perspective of somebody else. And now
Mm-hmm.
the lady in the song, she comes in where it's almost like a switch where Kendrick is rapping from her perspective, and at the same time she comes in, and then they complete each other's sentences basically, where there's a
Basically,
switch
yeah.
between Kendrick rapping from her perspective, and then it switches from her, it switches to her as rapping from her own perspective as
Mhm.
well, which is such a cool concept. And it goes back also to what I was saying that Kendrick has always been true to who he is because this
Yeah.
is a concept that he's had since way back then. Because
Since
Section
yeah.
80 was released, I think, 11 years ago in like
Yeah.
2011, if I'm not
20,
mistaken.
2011.
Yeah,
2011, yeah.
yeah, because 2009 was the Kendrick Lamar EP, 2010 was Overly Dedicated, and then came
Mhm.
Section 80, which is all throughout his albums, like there's a story that he's telling. There's one thing that
Yeah.
he's telling. And in Section 80, uh, basically, because now we're already talking about it, there he's talking about being true to who you are and actually realizing yourself
Yeah.
finding yourself. Like, forget who you are. Like, the color of your skin is not who you are. Like, forget your
Exactly.
ethnicity, forget everything else, what you see outside. But we need to find who you are within because that's where you are as a person. Or at least that's how I picked up the album.
Look at it. Yeah. No, it is. I also looked at it that way because also even the title, I feel like at times when you read the title for the first time or you hear it,
Yeah,
immediately you understand what the album is going to be about.
yeah,
Like, okay, now I get it already. But that's another thing about Kendrick. This thing about is rappers who are not only good at rapping but also intellectual.
yeah,
You enjoy their music more because they make you think.
yeah,
No. So from the album title, a lot of explaining had to be done to a lot of people. A lot of people had to read what this means, what the album is going to be
yeah,
about. What is it trying to tell us? What is it trying to portray? It's not a you're gonna get it first time around. There are things right now we heard from this album on different songs that we're not gonna pick up until 5 years from now. Like,
mm,
actually, that's what he meant. Because that's one thing about conscious rappers who are good at it. And when he speaks, he makes you understand, but I'm making music, and eventually you might not get to it, but eventually you're gonna get it.
yeah,
And these are the conversations that we're trying to have.
yeah,
So for me, that's also what I got from the album. It's a lot of speak your truth, own it, and listen with intent, not just to respond. Listen
yeah.
because you want to understand what's being said and what's going on.
Yeah, and say what you want to say. Say it with your chest.
Like, say it with the chest because one thing about this woke generation, they claim to be woke, but then they hide behind burners, they hide behind. He said, she said, own up to it. So I always say, remember how I said that if anyone's willing to fight me about reason,
Yeah.
I'm here. Fight
You're
me.
ready.
Because I stand by what I believe in. I speak my truth, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna be like, okay, because everybody's saying this, I'm gonna go with them. That's another thing about me when it comes to music. I'm opinionated, yes, but also I feel like I back up my opinions.
Yeah.
I know why I say, and I mean it, and I understand it first before I say it to the next person.
Yeah.
So I always believe in owning your truth in any situation you're faced with, not just lyrically or music, anything you are faced with in life. Speak your truth and stand on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, because what people forget about hip hop is that you are supposed to. It's a form of expression. It's an art where people express themselves. That's why we have all these elements within hip hop. You have the break dancing. We have break dancers who express
Mm.
themselves through their dancing. We had
Yeah.
what do you call? We had DJs as well who actually started the entire movement, or the
Yes.
entire movement of hip hop. They express themselves through the decks, through the music that they play, through
Yeah.
how they mix
The
the music
graffiti
together.
as well.
The graffiti guys as well. They also express themselves through that
Yeah.
art. But the biggest ones of them all are the MCs, the
Yeah.
lyricists, because these guys, they say exactly what they're supposed to say. They say
So,
what people are afraid to say, and obviously with the commercialization of hip hop and the way that people record labels want to sell very quickly, that expression has been lost. It has been lost through the entire
true.
with just wanting to be mainstream, because now it's just about women, it's about drugs, it's about violence, it's about all these different things. And then you have guys like Kendrick and J. Cole, or just all these different guys who come in and say, look, even though we are mainstream and we are going to have a radio hits here and there within in the album, but we are just expressing, once again, we're expressing who we are, because that we're expressing what is in our hearts, we're expressing what is in our spirits. Like, we are just not able to keep quiet and just do what everyone else is doing. We want to
Yeah.
say who we are. And that's where a lot of artists who are trying to make it, that's where they should channel themselves, because hip hop, as a culture, it's in the hands of everyone. It's in all our
Yeah.
hands, because all of us, we
Definitely.
need to revive that spirit of what hip hop is, of expressing yourself. And obviously, the whole violence and stuff, that is, most of it is in the US, and
Mm.
that is what NWA, they were expressing themselves, because that was their truth at the time. They
Yeah.
grew up in LA, different parts of LA,
Definitely.
around the
Yeah.
Compton area and whatnot. They experienced the brutality of the police, hence that big song that they have about the police.
Mm.
They experienced the life of growing up in LA, with everyone having lowriders, everyone selling drugs, everyone just trying to make it, trying to survive, trying to make it out of their childhood so they can move
Yeah.
out of where they grew up and
Yeah.
live in
Yeah.
safer areas, take their families into safer areas. That was their truth. And
Yeah.
that is what we need to hear more of, especially in South Africa. Like, remember, like I said, even the use of the N word by South African artists,
Yeah. You did. I
a
remember.
lot of the times, it just sounds out of place. And even the profanity, because even though, I mean, Black people, especially Zulu people, they do use quite a lot
Yeah.
of language. But when it comes to the arts, a lot of that profanity, it
It
falls
sounds
away.
off.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds off. It usually falls away because there's
Mm.
a lot of truth in our art. There's a lot of truth
It's not
in
who
the
we
way that we
are.
express. It is not who we are. I mean,
Yeah.
even though it will slip out here and there, But
Here and
with the
there.
artists, that we've had, like before the music, outside of music, the profanity, it just does not fit in anywhere because it is not part of the art that we create. It is not part of who we are.
Exactly. It goes back to what you were speaking of, that you want people or musicians rather to have more of the storytelling. Speaking of NWA, they were telling their story, right? And they did it
Yeah,
so good. So it's difficult for a person locally to tell their story, and every second line or every second bar or verse, they're cursing, because
yeah,
that's not true. That's not who we are.
it's not.
From the way we grow up at home, it's rare that you hate Lamba, bro. It's crazy,
Yeah, yeah,
So now for you to rap every single song or every single bar, for it to have a curse word, it's like, but where did you grow up? Because even
yeah,
if you didn't grow up with your parents, in a neighborhood, people were not addressing each other like that.
yeah. And
It goes back to the sense of respect that we just have as a community.
to actually prove this point, right? You listen to guys who rap in vernac. The profanity is very, very minimal. Normally, the
Exactly.
profanity comes in when they switch to English.
Switch to English.
That's
Yeah.
when you hear a lot of the profanity the most. And you listen to Pro Kid for instance, a lot of his lyrics that they do not have profanity until he moves to English.
English. Yeah.
Even with proverb, I mean not proverb, a flabber, he also used
Yes.
to rap in vernac. A
Like,
large part of, even though I mean Flava was actually very, very foul mouthed in a lot of ways, but
yeah. Yeah.
but a lot of the times when he's rapping in vernac, it's just the
Mhm.
way that it's just the story that he was telling, which could be very foul. It's not something that you would necessarily repeat in front of adults. But the way that he executed it, like
Yeah.
it does not necessarily use specific words of
Curse
profanity,
words. Yeah.
but it's just the story that
Yeah.
he's telling. And
Uyamuzwa ukuthi uyakhe.
yeah, you can hear where he's going. You can hear the story that he's telling. And by the way, like it's so sad really that we lost Flabber and we only got one album. And this is something that I always say. It's something that I always go back to. Because when you listen to Kuli versus Flabber, like the
Mm.
mix of storytelling, the mix of humor, the mix of actually being a serious lyricist, you can hear it in everything. Like you can hear it throughout the album, you can hear it throughout
Yeah.
all of his raps, and he put all of these things together into one, which is
Yes.
something that you
Into
never
one.
hear from anyone else.
Exquisite. Yeah. It's amazing. Like, earlier today, I was actually having another emotional moment because of Lava, because I saw in the
Yeah.
news that the ex-girlfriend was released on parole.
Oh yeah, yeah,
It literally took me back to almost 7 years ago, and to how emotional we were. Because I cried. I wake up in the morning, I'm like, what? What do you mean? Not Flava?
yeah,
So I'm like, this guy hasn't given us the music we deserve. Yeah, he was there with the Squad Up Boys. We heard him, but then we still wanted more of him. And I felt, when he passed, now, I think for me it was more emotional because, when you feel it deep within you that, when this guy is about to break where we want him to go.
yeah.
That's
And
where I was at with Flava. I was
yeah,
seeing him going there. He was doing the features, featuring with Questas, with this and this. I'm like, okay, I'm seeing the features. He's putting in the work. So Flower is going where we want him to go. He's going where we're always pushing Mags to go.
so yeah,
Then you heard the news. I'm like, no, no way, guys. So it's always those things like, let's push our artists to where we want them to be, and they're gonna give us the face. And Flower did that. Flower for me, as much as it was one album, Flower remains one of the best in my books.
yeah, he is. Like he is one of the best lyricists that we've ever had in the country. One of the best hip hop artists that we've ever had
Just,
in the country. Like if there
yeah,
was one artist, if I could choose just one artist who embodies South African hip hop, I think I would choose Flabba. I
it
mean,
was
there's
Flower.
there's there's guys who have come who are still here, and who have gone past the entire rap phase of their careers, and they've done so many great things. But with Flabba is just so different. Was just so different. like he would embody, like he would just put a lot of elements of his character, by the way, also of who he is. He would put everything together into one song, and it would make sense. It would just work because there's a lot of guys. If they want to be funny on a song, it will be just that. There's
Yeah,
guys who want to be like proper, want to give punchlines, just
it
punchlines.
will
They
be
would
just that.
do just it will be just that. But with Flaba,
Yeah.
even with his flow, like everything is almost like it was second nature for him.
Yeah. Those people would just wake up and he will just start rapping randomly. It sounded like that. Like
Yeah,
this guy does this for he breathes rap. He's just a musician, he's an artist. And it was so it goes back to the point we touched on earlier, the authenticity that a lot of people are liking and we just want them to go back to. Because
yeah,
we appreciated him so much, we loved his music so much because he was authentic.
yeah. Yeah, he was really awesome, and also because I also saw that that headline today. What's the lady's name? I think it's is it Cindy's or something?
Cindy Siwe Manile, I think, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Because I also saw that, which was quite interesting because it also fits in to something else. There's a guy on Twitter right now who served 8 years, and people are just busy with him. That he only served. He confessed that he was in prison because he killed his ex-girlfriend, and right now he was just talking
Unprovoked,
about,
like he confessed, unprovoked.
yeah, like he just because he recently just got out, is on parole at the moment. So he was just talking about that, and I think it was relating to is it Hlehla, the lady that was just recently killed. Like he was just talking
Oh, yeah.
about, yeah, he was just talking about how horrible like this gender-based violence thing is because he was also a perpetrator of that, and
Yeah.
how he regrets doing all those things. And people are just
Mm.
going at him about how he only served 8 years and now is currently on parole. And then now
That's so
later
sad.
on, because now what, because I haven't seen any of the tweets regarding Cindy Siwe also coming out on parole right now. Because that was just something that I'm curious about. Because it's one of the things that I love to observe about Twitter, whether people change their stance or how often they change their stance. Because now a lady who just
When the
killed
roles are
what,
reversed.
yeah, when the roles are reversed, like now a
Yeah.
lady that just killed one of the biggest artists in the country, she also today, just today, she was released
Same
on
day.
parole. Yeah, after serving, I think, is it 6 or 7 years
It's
in
almost
prison?
7. So literally the parole is literally a cut in half. So you get
Yeah,
14 years, serve a good 7 years, you're out.
yeah,
Which I don't like much. Earlier I was because I was watching the news with my dad. And I'm like, I still don't like this lady because she took a lot from me personally. Just
yeah.
as
She
is, I'm not
did.
even friends. I was like, it broke my heart, guys.
Yeah,
You know? So I'm like, sure, she might have been rehabilitated or whatever the case, because we don't know if they really are. You understand?
yeah,
Because people go to prison, come out, I mean, they've changed, I mean, they haven't. But the fact remains that, yeah, you served your time, but a life will never be regained.
yeah.
Flower is
Like,
gone, you know? It's
yeah,
crazy. You see what she's picking up with the stunts on Twitter. It's the reason why I'm hardly on Twitter these days.
yeah.
People there sometimes sometimes you get someone and they just don't, you know. But honestly, not to go off topic a lot, but yeah, I mean, I was very emotional earlier regarding that.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's. I think it just reminded us of what happened, of who we lost, and how big of an impact he had, and how much of a bigger impact he could have had if
Mm. Yeah,
if it was still around. Like he would still be eating up all these rappers that
I
are
think that's
around
the
today.
thing. Yeah, it's always us thinking about the potential you took from us
Yeah,
because we could see this. When like water is boiling and it's just about to switch off.
yeah,
I feel like flowers at that point, it was just where be like he's going to give us the rap, he's going to give us the music. Because even the night it happened, I think he had just come from the studio or a performance. So
yeah,
that's when he was putting in the work, he was pushing. and all of that was just like taken just like that. So
just like that.
it's wild, man. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, it that also takes us, or at least it takes me back to how we started with the show, to say that it just takes one hit for you to go from 1,000 streams or a
Yeah.
1,000 listeners to 1 million. In the same way that it only takes just one moment for everything to just end,
And all of
just
that.
like that. Yeah. So I mean, with all the artists, every artist out there, someone who's trying to make it, like, make use of every opportunity. Make use of every opportunity. Like, you really, really work hard on the music that you create. Really work hard at it. Do the best that you can. Give the best that you can, and give us who you are, because your music
Yeah.
should outlive you. It shouldn't just be somewhere in the archives with an era of
Definitely.
music that was around at the time, and we never
Yeah.
even get to hear it. Like, if we like with the approach that artists should have with their music, is that how do I stand out from everybody else? And for me
Definitely.
personally, for anyone to stand out from everybody else, is just for them
Be
to
true
be
to
who they
yourself.
are.
Yeah.
Be true to their art, be true to themselves, and let that shine through the music. And we're just going to hear it. Like, even today, going back to Kendrick, to that first EP that he released in 2009, there's no way that you could listen to that EP today and think, you know what, Kendrick was actually lucky. He probably just got a big break somewhere. Like, when you listen to it, you can hear that this guy was doing this music because he knew that he was going somewhere. And even though you
Yes.
can hear sort of that it was from that time of the late 2000s, like, because I listened to it and I remember, because when I was still in high school, I used to keep my computer on through the night and just have all of my music play through the night, and I just go to sleep. And it hit me yesterday that had I come across that EP during that time, it would have been a part of that playlist, and it would have made sense. It would have fit in with all the music that was playing at the time, because during that time, no one, at least a lot of the bigger artists, they were not making the same kind of music. Like, it was easy to differentiate between everyone, even though there was a specific sound, like it was a very, very small element that was there, but you could still hear that this is from this era, but still
Yeah.
at the same time be able to differentiate between all the artists and say and hear that this is this song from this artist.
Definitely true. And as touching on being true to yourself, telling your story, and just being authentic, like, I'm a huge Kwaito fan. One thing about me, if there's one thing
Yeah,
you must know about me, I love Kwaito. And I always listen to Kwaito, and I have my playlist is a Kwaito and whatnot. And when I look at the playlist and the artists on there, like literally 90% of them are not making music anymore,
yeah,
you know? But they're
yeah,
still eating up the music flavors because of how authentic it was, how good it was. Some of them are late and we still listen to their music. Some of them are just big, you're great, like, looking great on Instagram and the girls loving them. I'm looking at them too recently. Girls are just losing their mind.
yeah. So
You
I
know,
saw that interview. I saw that
you know,
interview that I was doing on
you
Metro.
understand? And I always listen to this. I'm like, guys, one thing, but you will find me jamming to Kwaito. And I know it's not just me. A lot of people jam Kwaito because of how real it was. It told our
Yeah,
story. It was authentic. And right now you can put on Uzola and everyone's going to lose their mind.
exactly.
Place and people are going to go crazy. They're going to be emotional, but they're like, yeah, no, this guy gave us good music.
Yeah,
It speaks true to what you're saying. Let your music outlive you, basically. Even
yeah,
when you're late, let you not be gone and forgotten.
yeah,
But with the way some of these artists are moving, it's gonna get to that.
yeah.
Their music is definitely gonna die with them because right now it's a hype here 2 minutes.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
just start creating noise for nothing. Then where's
But
the
I
work?
know.
Where's the
I,
art wanting?
I know one artist, or one particular artist comes to mind, whose music is going to outlive him, and it is AKA. Even though he's not everyone's favorite, but the
Yeah,
way that he does his music, his albums, you can hear that his
I hear
music
you.
is going to outlive him for a very, very long time.
I hear you. Definitely, it's one of those, man. And it's what we should also aim for as podcasters.
Yeah.
Podcasters. Wow.
Yeah.
At times it's just but yeah, I think it's what we should aim for. Even when we don't do this, or we stop doing this, or the newer guys have taken over, people can still remember that podcast that spoke about music as not just necessarily hip-hop. They focused on being the voice of the voiceless. They gave us music. They were the bridge. They were the hope, everything. And it brings me to what I want to close off this with, unless you had something else you want to add.
No, just to add, well, from what you just said, is that, well, with the way that we do our podcast, it should be that someone, like, I don't know, like 15, 20 years from today, they should be able to think back to say, when I was at this period in my life, when I was at this age, like, I used to listen to this podcast. I mean, those were the good days. Like, when someone goes back, reminisces about a certain period in their lives, we should come into their minds. Like, as different podcasters, you should say that I used to religiously listen to these guys.
Yes. I think also that's why some of our favorite songs are our favorite songs, because they remind you of a particular moment in your life.
Yeah.
Like, there are songs where I could tell you where I was standing and what time it was when I heard the song.
Yeah.
Because of the impact it had in me. So I feel like also with the way that we're going with our podcast, the aim behind it, the vision, the mission, all of it, and what we're just trying to achieve and what we do, we want to have the same impact. People to look back and be like, the first day I heard this podcast that used to go by the music podcast that a name now has a name. When I first heard the Oracles podcast, I was laying in bed doing 120. I was working and I stopped whatever I was doing. And I was did you get that? I want people to remember where they were when they first met us. And they heard the Oracles podcast. And now we officially have a name, ladies and gentlemen. We don't go by the music podcast without a name anymore.
Not anymore.
A name, and I introduce to you the Oracles.
Yeah. We are the Oracles. Such a, like I said, like, this is a name that I hope we never get to explain to anyone. I hope we never get to explain to anyone. Like, if anyone asks, if anyone asks about why we are called the Oracles, please, if anyone wants to ask, please do not ask us. It's just going to be like, it's just going to be something else. But please do not ask us, not yet. Like, a time will come when we will explain. Time will come when we'll have to explain it. But please, Z, please say it again. What is the name of this podcast?
The Oracles podcast. That's the name.
Oracles. We are the Oracles.
Because if you speak about it now, you're gonna take another 40 minutes just explaining the name. So
just into it now. Yeah, and we do not have any more time. So, like I said, like, for those that have subscribed, you have just found out what the name of the podcast is, the Oracles podcast, and that is it for today. Until next week, Z. Cheers. Thank you. Also, remember to subscribe, by the way. Remember to subscribe to the channel.
Like and share.
Exactly. We'll see you guys again next week. Have a good one.